I don't know exactly when the hatred began. Maybe it was the first time she corrected me in a meeting, gently, with that damn soft smile of hers that made everyone nod like she was some corporate saint. Or maybe it was when she got promoted in less than a year, while I'd been busting my ass for 3 and still hadn't made it past content lead. Her name was Layla. She wore a hijab, always coordinated with her outfit, classy as hell. And somehow, she pulled off being quiet and powerful. You know the type. The everyone loves her. The always calm. The impossible to read. And me. I was loud, bold, always pushing ideas, staying late, doing the most. And yet, somehow, she was the one they listened to. First, it was small things. I'd roll my eyes when she talked in meetings. Make jokes about her prayer breaks. Not loud enough for her to hear, but enough for the others to laugh uncomfortably. I was that person. The one who couldn't stand how perfect someone else seemed, especially when that someone didn't even try. I convinced myself she was fake. No one is that poised unless they're hiding something. And that's when the idea started forming. What if she was hiding something? What if I could find it? It wasn't just petty jealousy anymore. It became a mission. I wanted to expose her not just to the team but to the whole damn company. I wanted to make her fall from that little throne she sat on. And the craziest part. Do it. I started reading the Quran. It was a Friday night and I was 4 glasses of wine deep, scrolling through Reddit and Islamic forums like some conspiracy theorist. My tabs were filled with shocking verses in the Quran, what Muslims really believe, and embarrassingly, how to prove Islam is oppressive. I told myself it was research. I even started saving quotes, highlighting things I thought would make her look bad. My plan was to accidentally bring them up in team conversations, or maybe slide them into anonymous complaints. I wanted to find something she couldn't explain, something that would finally crack her image. But the weirdest thing happened. The more I read, the less angry I felt. There was this one verse, I still remember it. And we have not sent you, O Muhammad, except as a mercy to the worlds. 21:107. A mercy. I reread it 3 times. I wasn't expecting mercy. I was expecting control, oppression, harshness, anything that would justify what I was doing. But that verse, it stuck in my brain like a splinter I couldn't pull out. The next Monday I saw her in the break room. She was pouring tea and humming something. I don't know why, but I asked, "What are you singing?" She looked up, surprised I spoke to her. "It's a surah. From the Quran." Course it was. "What's it about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. She smiled, that same calm damn smile. "It's a prayer for protection." I didn't say anything else. But that night I looked up the surah. And the English translation was beautiful. It talked about seeking refuge from darkness, from envy, from the whisperings of evil. Felt familiar. I was supposed to be proving her wrong. But I started reading the Quran every night. Not just quotes anymore, whole passages. I read stories of the prophets, verses about patience, justice, self-restraint. Some of it was confusing. Some of it made me angry. But some of it, a lot of it, made me feel. And I hated that. I started dreaming about her. Not in a weird way, just moments, flashes. Her praying alone in the conference room, kneeling on a small mat while the rest of us talked about brand metrics and click-through rates. The quiet focus in her eyes. The stillness. Peace. One morning I got into the office early and found her praying. Froze. She didn't see me at first. Her forehead touched the ground, her lips moving silently. And for the first time I saw her not as some perfect rival, but as someone human. She finished and turned around slowly. I expected her to be annoyed, embarrassed even. But she just said, "Good morning," like nothing had happened. I wanted to say something sarcastic. I wanted to find some flaw. But instead I mumbled, "Morning," and walked out like I was the one who got caught. Things started changing. I stopped gossiping about her. I stopped drinking on weekends. I even caught myself looking for halal recipes online. What the hell was happening to me? Yet, I didn't stop reading. In fact, I started reading more. The breaking point came during a strategy meeting. One of the execs asked for feedback on Layla's campaign, and I had the perfect opportunity to sabotage her. I had emails, notes, little things I'd saved from months ago, but I didn't use them. I looked at her, calm, poised, unaware that I had ever hated her this much, and I realized I couldn't do it. Not because I suddenly loved her, but because I hated what I had become. She looked at me when I spoke, and I nodded in her direction. Her campaign was brilliant, I said. She smiled. And for the first time it didn't make me sick. It made me feel free. But that night something else happened, something I never expected. I cried on my bedroom floor, whispering a prayer to a God I didn't yet believe in. And I felt something answer me. I didn't cry like that often. But that night, after whispering words I didn't even know I believed, I just fell apart. It wasn't guilt. Not exactly. It was more like this wave of sadness for who I'd become. All those months scheming against someone who had never once raised her voice at me. Someone who smiled even when I was ice cold. I wasn't religious. Never had been. Raised Anglican, sure, but my family treated church like jury duty. Something you did twice a year because it was expected. God was never more than a vague concept, a polite footnote in holiday speeches. But now, I was praying. Not to Jesus. Not even to God the way I'd learned. I was praying to the one I kept reading about in the Quran. I didn't tell anyone, of course. I mean, can you imagine? The company gossip mill would combust if they knew I, the edgy British girl who once made burqa jokes, was suddenly defending hijabis and deleting tequila pics from Instagram. Still, it didn't stop me from digging deeper. At first, my searches were still double-edged. I'd type things like contradictions in the Quran or problematic hadith, hoping to find that one thing that would make it all collapse. But it kept backfiring. Every gotcha verse I found had context, like real academic context, that made it make sense. I started reading tafsir. I even watched lectures from Muslim scholars on YouTube. Like actual scholars, not random dudes with TikTok beards yelling into a camera. And with each video, the hate started to die. There was one night I remember vividly. I was watching this clip of a Muslim woman explaining what modesty meant in Islam. Not just the clothes, but the behavior. The way you speak. The way you carry yourself. The why behind it all. She said, hijab is not about oppression. It's about liberation from being seen as an object. It's about defining your worth before anyone else can. That shook me. Because for years, I had used my appearance as a weapon. My body, my fashion, my flirtation. All tools in the corporate game. And yet I never once felt powerful. Only exhausted. Always performing. Layla. She never performed. She never had to. At work, she and I still didn't talk much. But something in the air had shifted. One day I held the elevator for her. She smiled and said thank you like she always did. But this time she asked, "Are you okay?" Froze. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to shrug and play it cool. But instead I said, honestly, I don't know anymore. And she didn't press. She just nodded gently like she understood. Like maybe she had once felt that same ache. I didn't sleep that night. Instead I reread the story of Joseph in the Quran. The betrayal by his brothers. The prison. The forgiveness. The dignity. And I thought about my own betrayal. Of myself. Of what I thought I stood for. Of Layla, who had never even known the full extent of my cruelty. Hit me like a freight train. I wasn't trying to expose her. I was trying to bury my own shame. The next day I deleted everything. All the screenshots. All the saved files. The notes I'd kept in a folder titled Layla Weak Points. It made me sick just to look at it. And then I did something terrifying. I sent her a message. Hey, can I talk to you sometime soon? Nothing work-related. Just something I need to say. She replied within minutes. I'm around after lunch. Want to grab coffee? I stared at the screen for 5 full minutes before typing. Thanks. We sat in the small cafe across the street. She ordered mint tea. I stuck with black coffee, my hands shaking around the cup. I owe you an apology, I blurted before she even sat down properly. She blinked. Okay. I haven't been a good colleague. Actually, I've been horrible, jealous, rude, judgmental, and I swallowed hard. I wanted to ruin you. Silence. I expected shock, anger, slap across the table. Instead, she said, I figured. And blinked. You what? I figured something was going on. I didn't know it was that deep, but I could tell you weren't happy. That stung more than anger ever could. I thought you were pretending, I said quietly. That the whole calm, graceful, prayerful thing was just an act. It's not. I know that now. We talked for almost an hour. Not about work. Not even about religion, at least not directly. We talked about values. About loneliness. About how it felt to walk into rooms where people assumed the worst of you. And before we left, I asked her, why didn't you ever call me out? She smiled. Because I knew one day you'd see it for yourself. That night, I knelt beside my bed again. But this time, I didn't just whisper vague apologies to a maybe God. This time I said out loud, if you're there, guide me. Because I can't keep living like this. And as cliché as it sounds, felt something shift, something open. Not a flash of light. Not a voice in the sky. But then, something happened at work that changed everything. A mistake. Big one. And suddenly, Layla's job was on the line. Because of a decision I had made. And I had to choose. Step up and protect her. Or stay silent, and watch the company do the very thing I once planned. They say karma has a way of circling back to you. But I don't think this was karma. This was a test. A week after that conversation with Layla, things were finally starting to feel okay. She didn't hate me. I was reading the Quran every night. I was calmer at work. Even my friends noticed something was different. Are you meditating or something? One of them asked. I laughed and almost told the truth. Almost. Then came the mistake. It was a scheduling error. An algorithm shift that affected one of our major ad clients. We were working on a Ramadan campaign, and someone had pushed the wrong regional targeting. Ads meant for the Middle East went live in Australia. It was a disaster. The client was furious. And guess whose name was attached to the account? Lila's. But the decision to approve the ad push. That was mine. I had signed off late at night without double-checking the geotags. I remembered it clearly. I was tired, annoyed, and too distracted by another video I had queued up about the Prophet's kindness to orphans. I clicked approve and shut my laptop. Now it was all unraveling. Management called an emergency meeting. There was talk of formal warnings. The phrase client retention risk was thrown around like a grenade. And through it all, Layla just sat there. Like always. Except this time I saw the tension in her eyes. She was scared. And I knew why. Because for a hijabi woman in corporate America, one mistake wasn't just a mistake. It was a label. A reason to be excluded, restructured, or quietly let go. And the worst part. She didn't even know I was the one who caused it. After the meeting, I stood outside the office, phone in hand, staring at an email draft. It read, Hi all, I just want to clarify that the final approval on the ad shift was made by me. Layla had flagged the targeting issue earlier, but I failed to follow up. My finger hovered over send, and I froze. Because in that moment, I heard the old me whisper, this is your out. Or clean. No one knows. Let it go. Let her take the fall. It was everything I had once wanted. But it felt disgusting. I looked up at the sky. Gray, heavy, like it could rain any second, and I said under my breath, not this time. Then I hit send. The fallout was fast. I was called into HR. The manager was surprised. Layla had never mentioned my name. She'd taken the heat silently, trying to protect the project. You're lucky you came forward, the director said. We value integrity. Integrity. I just discovered I had some. I was given a formal warning, fair, deserved. Layla's record was cleared. She was removed from the blame list. And that should have been the end of it. But instead, something bigger happened. 2 days later she came to my desk. "Want to grab lunch?" she asked. It was a simple sentence. But it felt like a bridge being built between two cliffs that were never meant to meet. We sat on a bench outside, sandwiches in hand. I told her everything, the mistake, the email, even the part about almost letting it go. She listened quietly. Then she said, "You've changed." "I know," I whispered. "And I think I want to keep changing." "Are you thinking about Islam?" I hesitated, not out of shame but out of fear. "Yeah," I said. "But not because of you. Not anymore. It started because I wanted to destroy you. But now it's because I want to save myself." She smiled. Not smug. Not superior. Just kind. "I'll help however I can," she said. Over the next few weeks I kept learning. I started waking up earlier. Stopped drinking entirely. Deleted every post that made me cringe. Started covering my body more. Not because anyone told me to, but because I felt lighter when I did. I began fasting on Mondays and Thursdays. Read Surah Maryam out loud. Moved to tears by the story of Jesus and his mother. I memorized Al-Fatiha. I watched videos on how to pray. I was still me. Still British. Still sarcastic, stubborn, overly caffeinated. But something inside me was shifting. And one night I walked to a local mosque. It wasn't a grand conversion moment. No crowds. No cameras. Just me, a quiet imam, and Layla standing behind me with tears in her eyes. I said the words, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah." I testify that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. That night I didn't cry because I was broken. I cried because I was finally whole. But not everyone was happy. When the company found out I converted, rumors started. And one person in particular, someone I never expected, decided to make me the new target. Because corporate America has never been kind to women who change the rules. Converting didn't make life easier. Just made it clearer. I thought once I said the Shahada, things would get lighter. And in a way they did. My heart felt cleaner, my nights more peaceful, my life more intentional. But the world didn't change just because I did. First, it was little things. People at work stopped inviting me to happy hours. My manager asked, "Are you still going to be as ambitious now that you're spiritual?" I started getting weird comments. "Do you have to pray here? You don't look like a typical Muslim." And my favorite, "You were way more fun before." Layla warned me it might happen. But I guess I didn't realize how lonely it could feel to become something people didn't expect or want me to be. And then came Emily. Emily had always been neutral toward me. Smiley, polite, HR-friendly. But something changed the moment she saw me in my long cardigan and hijab at the office for the first time. "Oh," she said, eyebrows raised. "You're really doing this?" He nodded. "Yeah." She didn't say congratulations. Just walked away with her mouth tight. I should have known that was the beginning. It started with passive-aggressive emails. Then accidental mistakes that were somehow always blamed on me. And finally a formal complaint. "She's being disruptive," Emily had written. "She makes other employees uncomfortable with her sudden religious displays." They pulled me into a meeting. I brought Layla with me as a support person. The director looked awkward. "We're not here to challenge your personal beliefs. We just want to make sure they're balanced with the company culture." Translation: tone it down. "Would you say this to a Christian wearing a cross?" Layla asked, calm as ever. Silence. Later that day, Emily cornered me near the elevator. "You know, not everyone's convinced this little rebrand of yours is genuine." My jaw clenched. "Excuse me." "Oh, come on. You hated Layla. We all saw it. Now suddenly you're her twin. People are talking." And that's when I realized. She was me. Old me. Suspicious. Jealous. Desperate for validation. I almost snapped. I almost said something cruel. Something biting and British and unforgivable. But instead I said, "You don't have to believe me." She blinked. I didn't do this for you. Or for Layla. Or for anyone. I did it for peace. Something I hope you find too. And I walked away. The complaint didn't go anywhere. Layla defended me. So did 2 other colleagues. People I never realized had been quietly watching my growth. But the tension remained. So I made a choice. I left the company. Felt scary at first. Like failure. Like giving up. But the truth is, it was the most powerful thing I'd ever done. I moved to a different city. Started freelancing. Volunteered with refugee support groups. Began praying in a real mosque 5 times a day. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing recognition. I was chasing sincerity. One evening, as I walked home from Isha prayer, I saw a group of teenage girls giggling on a bench. One of them wore a hijab, awkwardly like she was still figuring it out. She looked up and smiled at me. And I smiled back. Because I knew what she was trying to become. I had hated someone once for wearing that scarf. Then I tried to tear her down. Then I learned from her. And now, I was her. If you had told me 2 years ago that I'd be a Muslim woman walking home in flats and a flowy abaya, with peace in my heart and Layla on speed dial, I would have laughed in your face. But now I cry in gratitude. Every single night. Revenge was my beginning. But it wasn't my ending. Because sometimes the person you want to destroy the most is the person who ends up saving you. And sometimes the religion you try to disprove becomes the one thing that finally makes you whole. She hated her Muslim coworker and tried to destroy her reputation. But as she dug into Islam to find her flaws, she found her faith instead.